there is more amazing music that anybody would love, anybody being made now than ever. It's just a matter of you finding it.
Well, I think I want to broaden this point out to media, because I think this speaks to a larger problem with how we consume media. I've heard from several Bernie fans, really big Bernie fans, who told me that the Bernie protests around the country are not being covered by national news. All right. And then when you talk about it, he says, they say Bernie complained about this, and that they did an instant search and they didn't find it. And then I do a search and I was like, oh, it exists. It's just not the way you want it to be.
It's exactly like the music fan saying, I'm not being catered to now. The music in my day was so easy for me to just open my mouth and it would fall into my mouth. Now what's happening? The music today is not good.
So it's not just music, it's everything.
Bernie is saying, you're not catering to me. You know?
Everybody expects to be catered to. And I'm not sure that's great for society, but it seems like where we're going deeper down the rabbit hole. I've been working on this idea. I started with media, but it seems to be going to larger and larger stuff. That almost everything exists on a U curve. So think of a graph, and specific on one side, broad on the other side, strong up top, weak on the bottom. So you have 4 quadrants. The strength are people who do things that are very specific, who cater to very specific constituencies and small audiences. And the strong are the people who can talk to everybody and can cater to these people. So YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Netflix, Disney. These really giant people over here, these really specific people over here. The rest of the world is down here, right? Where they're either in a place where they can't get small because they got infrastructure and all this stuff that they just can't slim down, or they think they're big but they're not big enough. And I think what happens with media becoming more either everything or exactly what I think, that middle ground just gets lost in the sauce. And I think the more I've thought about it, the more I think it reflects the polarization that we're seeing in everything, because you're expecting everything or nothing.
Well, but what's fascinating about this is that in spite of the polarization, and people feel genuine enmity and suspicion, wariness, a sense of even disgust towards their own neighbors for just having a different sign on their lawn. And they not only discuss, but as Jonathan Haidt talks about, they feel like these different viewpoints, the other tribe is an existential threat to us all, right?
Yeah.
Despite all of that, somehow people are still expressing, well, wait, why isn't big tent media catering to me? Why isn't it still speaking to all? Why isn't it still speaking to me? Which the underlying assumption would be that they're pining for the days when big tent media spoke to all of us. They don't even know. They might still love their tribal partisan channels that they go seek out, right? They might love being in their echo chamber, but part of them wishes that somehow we were all being spoken to. And I guess the question is, should we expect that? Back to the Super Bowl question, it's like, Like,
Yeah.
I just felt like that performance was almost a form of entrapment. And it pissed me off when Samuel L. Jackson was like, all right, let's button it up. Too black, too loud. Man, can we stop with this conflation of hip hop culture being one and the same with all of black culture? Can we stop with this edict that if you have certain reservations about hip hop culture, that somehow that makes you averse to black culture more generally? Those two things being fused together, I find extremely damaging and really what's the word I'm looking for? Subversive is the wrong word. There's something poisonous about that message being so normalized and mainstreamed, and I was just like, fuck you, man. Like because there are so many people who are not white who would still have qualms about a show like that or still not feel spoken to, and you're setting it up so that, like, you're setting it up to be racially divisive in an artificial way, and I just thought that was really obnoxious and destructive. Too black, too man. That's not. I guarantee you there are black people. I mean, if you are a fan of Kendrick and you're like, what is he saying here? Then imagine somebody older than you, like your mom's generation, watching that, being like, what the fuck? This is not the hip hop of my day. You know what I mean? I'm sure I see these comments on YouTube. Hip hop today is whack. When I was growing up, we had, this one and this one and this one and this one, and that was the classic stuff. I mean, that never ends. Time marches on. Like you said, people turn into whiny parents.
I'd like to roll back to something you said in there that I thought was really interesting. I thought, and correct me if I'm misstating what you said. That people are expecting that these that these things essentially represent them, speak to them. And I know I've mentioned this to you in the past, but I'm a big believer that they never did.
Yeah, I agree with you, but there was sort of an illusion of shared language.
Yes, I wholeheartedly. That there was this myth of how the Big Tent, that the Walter Cronkite, but even back in the days of Walter Cronkite, there were people watching two other versions of Walter Cronkite.
Two versions.
Yeah, because it was ABC and there was NBC, and they had shows that were competitors for Walter Cronkite.
Okay. I misunderstood what you meant by that. I thought they were okay. Yeah. I thought you meant that they took different cuts of him.
No. It wasn't 2025.
Right.
Today they would, but back then there were Huntley. I think it was Huntley Brinkley fans. Like there were fans of different versions of it back then, and I think but I think there's a more macro thing that I point to often that I think a lot of people don't like, but it's something that I often point out. The fact that previous era and those previous eras, like this, the thing that makes this era different from those previous eras is that those eras attempted to appeal to a consensus that was fake. It never existed.
And yet people enjoyed the passive, like you said, presentation, that we could all play along with the illusion. Now we can't play along with it. It's too noisy to even support the illusion,
Yes.
and yet people still want it. Even the people that are like, I hate mainstream, I like,
Mhm.
even those people are craving this sense that when you open your window, we can at least all agree, not even agree, but like there's a shared language,
Yeah.
there's a shared tone.
Yep.
And that's, I think that's incredible that people still want that, even if they don't think they want it.
Yeah. It's an intoxicating lie.
It is. It is. There was, I mean, just watching a movie like All the President's Men,
Hmm.
when there were three TV channels and or three TV networks, and then you had your public broadcasting. I don't even know if public broadcasting, yeah, it had to have been, yeah, in
Yeah,
the
that
early 70s, yeah, it was around,
just launched. Yeah.
right? And a newspaper like the Washington Post was this tower of, like a satellite tower just beaming out. It had incredible cultural sway. Or certainly the New York Times, right?
Hmm. Both.
Just watching that film, which is a period piece about, like, when it was made, it refers to a slightly earlier time period than when it was. It's like 75 or something.
Yeah.
So it's not that far back, but it's like 3 years back. But just the way people even talk to each other in a film like that, you kind of want to climb back into that world. There's something about the sense of being standing on a solid foundation, even if the foundation is actually made of plywood and it's not solid at all. There's something about what we can all, you know, we can all, at least we're all standing on the same ground, even if it's way less stable than you think it is.
Or we have the illusion of it.
Right. I mean, getting back to the Rob Zombie thing, back in the 80s, when Rob Zombie would walk into the supermarket and we all shared the song, I can guarantee you he thought of himself as somebody going, I'm not playing that shit. I exist to counteract that stuff.
Hmm.
But yet he now is saying it's a shame we don't have that.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you don't have a center
Hmm.
point to focus on, then
Agreed.
what am I?
The center is gone, right?
Yeah, or even 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 if you're resisting it, even if
Hmm.
you're hell bent on, I don't know, a bookstore in Berkeley selling Timothy Leary and who knows, Black Panthers, and back in the 60s, they would have looked at themselves as, we are in direct opposition, we are fighting, we're trying to bomb, we're trying to blow that shit up, the mainstream lie you're getting. But what happens if you take that mainstream lie away? Oh, what am I now? you
Yeah.
know
So it's an interesting thing where if there's no, okay, let's just go even more macro. What's mainstream now?
No idea really, because even when you go to the Walmart record rack, you're seeing it's small. It's like not much wider than what's behind me now, and there's like three little shelves, three,
Hmm.
maybe four. It's not that wide, but there's multiple things represented in that. I noticed you'll see Taylor Swift, of course. You'll see like an old AC/DC record. You'll see Kendrick. It's like, oh, we're trying to, you know what I mean? We're still trying to cater to all the different strands here.
Go even more macro. Culturally, what's
Mm,
mainstream?
nothing. There's no shared. There's nothing that is completely shared at this point. Is
Because
what I.
I'm thinking, I've been, as I try to put together my grand theory of everything, because I'm a crazy person. Um, I was thinking about like, okay, and I think that's part of why the Super Bowl is so interesting to talk about, because that's one of those mutual, points where, you get 100. The only time a year you're going to get 100 million people watching the same thing in
Mhm.
America. So you got no consensus. You have this, this culture war going on in the background, continuing to rage. And everybody demanding customization for themselves and complaining that that everybody is not receiving their customization.
Right, right, right. It's such a paradox, because what they're saying is, I wish the customization would go away and we all had what I've chosen to pursue for myself. You
Because
see
my
what I mean?
customization is right, of course.
Yes.